Hi everyone, Season 1 is coming, and with it, the 32 Malignant Hearts, the season theme that allows us to gain lots of extra power in our jewelry socket slots. So this works a little bit like the legendary gems in Diablo 3. They have special effects and they replace regular sockets. The way this works is that you can find these malignant monsters, they are like some really tough elites, and then you defeat them and they drop some of these hearts. There are 4 different types of hearts. There are offensive, defensive, utility, and super powers that can roll on these. And you can see them here. We have them all listed out in this Maxwell post, also linked down below. You can also check out the tooltips here if you mouse over them. So we have all that good stuff. We also have the hearts in our build guides. So if you want to check out any of those build planners, we also have them already embedded in those setups. So that's pretty cool. Now I want to talk about what I believe are going to be some of the best powers. So there are obviously a lot to choose from, and well, some of them definitely seem more useful than others. It will depend a little bit on like actual mechanics. Like in some cases it's just kind of like a bit of a question mark, like how does it work exactly, and we'll have to wait and see when it's actually live, when we actually get to play with it. But for now I can give you my best idea at least. Before we go into all of the little details, I want to thank and highlight the sponsor of today's video, zLeague. Playing Diablo 4, you may have noticed that there is actually no LFG tool in the game, and they have the solution. You can download this app and sign up for free in a matter of minutes. You can create your own profile, add a banner, add some text about yourself, some interests that you're looking for, and you can try to find teammates in Diablo 4 and literally hundreds of other games as well. It is simple to use. You can see postings of other players. You can swipe left or right or send them a message if you want to play with them. You can see their interests, their skill level. You can filter by all kinds of things to try to find exactly the right person to play with. The app also has some other nice features like the gaming newsfeed. You can find exactly the right stuff that you're looking for. You can filter for stuff there. And you also have the in-app store that allows you to unlock some extra perks, some extra customization options, and you can even earn those coins for the shop for free by doing certain things inside the app. And not only that, but you can actually get real prizes for those coins, for example a gaming keyboard. With the new season starting in Diablo 4 right now, what better time to jump in, try out the app, and try to find some teammates. So check out the pinned comment in the description, you can download it for free, and on top of this you get 500 coins for free as a head start with that link. So go check it out. Now, let's go back to the video. Let's start with the general powers here. We have the Picana, the first one actually. This has a lightning arcing effect when you crit enemies. This seems pretty useful, especially when you attack many targets at once. I think this can be something that is relatively powerful for some builds that kind of rely on lots of AoE damage, lots of hits, and potentially you could even open up some synergies, for example on the Sorcerer with like extra lightning procs and these kind of things. So that is definitely something to look out for. We have the Dark Dance that gives you a free skill cast for your core skills every 5 seconds. That is pretty good as well, I think. It depends on the build a little bit. But for example, like a Barbarian with Unbridled Rage, instead of spending 70 Fury, you spend like 0. That sounds pretty good to me. And every 5 seconds is proccing often enough for this to be pretty good, I think. You have Tempting Fate, which gives you a bit of crit damage. So this seems to be additive crit damage and not multiplicative crit damage. So it seems quite weak. This can be maybe useful for builds that have like near full crit chance, like near 100% crit chance, something like rapid fire rogues or something like that. But outside of it, it doesn't really seem that great because yeah, even though non-crits don't contribute that much, you don't really want to reduce the damage by that much either, because you can just have another power. Then we have the Lionheart, gives you a bit of a barrier generation and some healing. Seems really terrible. We have Revenge. This is really powerful, at least the way that I think it works. It just seems like you just have straight up 20% damage reduction. And then you have this like AoE fire damage explosion that actually seems to roll pretty high values if those are accurate. I'm not really so sure about the fire explosion, but just 20% damage reduction sounds awesome. So I'm gonna put this in every single build, I guess. Then we have the Prudent. This is also really powerful. This is basically the protecting aspect on crack. You get immunity for 4 seconds after losing 20% life in a single hit. That seems superb. So especially hardcore players would really want this, I think. It just allows you to basically not get absolutely annihilated in some scenarios where you don't get one shot basically. So that's really strong, I think. Then we have the Determination here. It has like a resource effect that seems super weak. Then there's Retaliation. You deal fire damage around you when a crowd control effect is removed from you. That seems awful, but maybe something for PvP. He has calculated where after spending 150 resources, you stun enemies for 1 second. That seems like a really high cost, but some builds can generate a lot of resources and can spend a lot of resources. For example, Sorcerers with the Omni Power Heart that you're going to see soon. So there are definitely some examples, and also Barbs, for example, can spend a lot of resources really quickly if they want to. And yeah, this might be something for a few builds. I think it has some potential here. Then we have the Malignant Pact. This is one of those superpowers. It is really good, I think, if you can make use of at least 2 of those effects. So I guess this is the attack speed and the resource recovery. So most builds will be able to do that. And especially when you have the resource recovery effect and you don't really have crazy amounts of resources usually, then this is very powerful. So definitely something like all around, just like worth throwing into most builds. We have the Creeping Death. This is designed for damage over time builds, and this is ridiculously powerful. So this gives you potentially like, 100 plus 200% or even more like multiplicative damage increase. When you stagger bosses, you get 134%. This is insane. So like poison rogues, I guess even something like firewall sorks or so, you can make use of that. It's going to be really nasty. This is like basically the strongest heart in the entire game, I think. So in terms of like the overall power gain, if you can capitalize on it. And then there's the Barber. And the Barber actually has potential to just break the game. So depending on how that works, there is actually an item in Diablo 3 called the Barber that kind of works like this. So basically it stores the damage you deal to the enemy, and then the enemies explode. A bit like the Shatter passive on the Sorcerer. And well, I assume this hits the original target, because else you would never be able to actually fight a boss. So it already hits the main target and everything around it. And this means that you multiply your damage with the amount of targets that can be in this AoE. So if you do, for example, Nightmare Dungeon pushing on the high tiers and stuff gets really tanky, you have this thing, you can just annihilate packs of monsters, I think. So that's going to be crazy. So I'm really excited to see that one. Now let's go into the class-specific ones. We have the Barbarian here. There's the Focus Rage that gives you extra crit for your non-basic skills after spending Axe Fury in 2 seconds. Kind of conditional. I guess it's only really feasible with something like Double Swing, but Double Swing doesn't really want to use other skills. And then there is Unbridled Rage builds where maybe you can include Death Blow. Yeah, it doesn't really seem that great. Even on Kratos Barb, I wouldn't use that because you just don't spend enough Fury most of the time. But the 32% extra crit chance is kind of nice, so you can play around it. Then we have Resurgent in Life that gives you extra healing when you're low life, so especially for Iron Skin type builds, that is kind of nice. On the other hand, when you use Iron Skin at low life, you just kind of heal to full anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like an alright power. We have Punishing Speed that gives you a knockdown with a really high chance, and it's not lucky hit. This is really good. If this works for Double Swing, like you get 2 chances maybe, you can basically use like perma knockdown stuff. Sounds pretty good actually. And Ignoring Pain, I really like this one. It's just like, yeah, less damage taken, and then you can get heals from that. So I think this is a really powerful heart here for Barbarians. Then we have the Druid, so there is the Moon Rage. This is like a wolf companion kind of meme item. I definitely want to see this in a Blind Boros run, but I don't think it's going to be great. We have Agitated Winds. Seems atrocious. I mean, automatically casting Psychic Armor and knocking everything back. Like, the active ability of Psychic Armor kind of seems like the bad part about the skill to me. So, yeah, maybe for something like Boulder or so. But yeah. Inexorable Force could be very interesting. You can pull in enemies while you have an ultimate active, so that remains to be seen how it works. But if this like just pulls in the entire screen, or maybe you can like walk with your ultimate active and then stuff gets pulled to you, that sounds really good for like any kind of speed farming. And there's Unconstrained Beast. Grizzly Rage just got freshly nerfed, the Unstoppable time has been reduced, and I guess now you can get the Unstoppable back. So that seems relatively nice, especially for the werewolf builds that don't have another source of Unstoppable in their Grizzly Rage setups. So that can be pretty good. Here we have Necromancer. I really like Necromancer in general. They have pretty good powers, I think. So there's one where you automatically cast corpse skills when you walk near corpses. That seems really nice. So this helps Necros with speed. Kind of the same story here with Decrepit Aura, where you cast Decrepit Fire automatically. That is kind of cool as well. Frozen Terror, so you have a chance to inflict fear, and then you chill them and freeze them while they're feared. So as long as you proc this often enough, you can actually freeze enemies. It sounds kind of fun. I'm not sure if I really like it, but it can be useful in some scenarios, I think, especially like pushing, especially like PvP. So we'll see. And there's a Great Feast. That one seems also really powerful. So if you can somehow figure out your resources, you have an 80% damage multiplier. Or you play a minion build and you get 80% damage for your minions. Now that's probably not really enough to make minions like super crazy good, but it can help. Then we have the Rogue. Rogue, I'm not really too impressed. There is one really good one, which is the Vile Apothecary. This one gives you a chance to inflict your imbuments, all of them at once, and you also don't need to have them on your bar even or anything like that. So this is really good. So this goes into most builds, I think. You can just like, chill, freeze, you can get extra damage from the cold imbuement, you can get the extra crit on shadow, you can get the shadow explosions, you can proc the poison on non-poison builds and get debilitating toxins. So there's a lot of options here, lots of really good stuff. This is a really cool one, I think. And yeah, just really powerful. The others, I'm not so convinced. So cluster munitions, you throw a bunch of stun grenades. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of get frostbitten aspect in there without exposure, I guess. Then you have trickery. This one gives you like a decoy trap that taunts enemies. I'm not sure what to think of this. I guess this might be something for pushing or so, but for regular gameplay, probably it's way too slow. And then there's the clip shot. That also seems quite weak. I mean, okay, it has pretty high chance to slow, pretty high chance to knock back. Does it really matter? I don't really think so. And lastly, we have the Sorcerer. So Sorcerer has a pretty good power here of Tal Rasha. This is 36% extra damage if you can include all 3 elements. Every Sorc build has teleport. Most of them have Frost Nova, which may work with this, but maybe not. And then you have usually some kind of burn because of burning synergies. So at least 2 elements are covered. And then, yeah, maybe you have either a cold build like Ice Shards or Frozen Orb, or use like a cold generator, or a blizzard. So there are some options to make this work, and it's a relatively strong damage buff. Then we have spell breaking. No. Then we have spite, where you can reflect crowd controls. Again, this is mostly a PvP thing, I believe. This seems really awful otherwise. It can maybe lead to some kind of funny scenarios in PvE at least. And then there's Omni Power. Now this is my favorite power of this entire thing here, I gotta say. So you launch multiple projectiles, multiple core skills at once. So it's going to make it a very mana-hungry build, but there are ways to solve that. And personally, I'm actually very excited to play a Frozen Orb Sorcerer because of this thing. So like just launching like 4 or 5 Frozen Orbs at a time sounds really cool. This may even work for stuff like Chain Lightning. It will work for like Fireball. So those are the builds where this really has an impact. And technically it also works for Charge Balls and Ice Shards, but they already have a lot of projectiles and you just add a few for a very high cost. So it's probably not really worth it there. But for the other core skills, that sounds amazing. So I want to see this. So that's my quick overview here for the hearts. I'm going to keep you guys updated with more findings. If there's any crazy stuff we learn, maybe there's something that I missed, or maybe something just turns out to be super busted. But I think generally the hearts are a really cool addition. I would really like to see maybe some of them become like legendary powers down the line, or even uniques or something like that. I can definitely imagine that timeline. But for now, let's enjoy it while it lasts and see what comes out of it. Hope you liked this video. I wish you good luck in the season, and see you guys next time.